In this podcast, we try to highlight and educate around positive practice in a digital world. Taking as a starting point that the world of information is accessible from the device in our pocket. And it's not the access to information anymore that enables success, but instead the life skills we develop regardless of what information we're interested in. One of those life skills already widely acknowledged worldwide by the education community is collaboration. I've pre-titled today's interview The Power of Community, as it will showcase how the idea of one man can lead to the successful collaboration of an entire community. The man is Tomi Wirtanen and the community is Laajalahti here in Espoo, Finland. Welcome to the podcast, Tomi.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Excellent to have you here. Finally, it's been a long time coming.
Here we are.
And so I have a very nice memory of how it all started from my outside perspective. And I would like you to fill in the gaps and tell us the complete story. So my memory is from a parents' association meeting where our children goes to school in Laajalahti. And you, outside the formal agenda, mentioned something very important to you. Something like that the city of Espo had not invested in a grass court or artificial grass court for a community, although they had rebuilt the entire school, a beautiful school in our beautiful little neighborhood. And you said that I want us to make it happen. So how did it all start? Mm-hmm. If you take us back to how you first got started. You've been interviewed now for a year around the project. It's been a big project called Pihapelit. But please tell us all about it, because I haven't even followed it, because I wanted to have this conversation that's been maybe more than half a year at least coming.
Sure.
So please tell us the story from the beginning.
Well, we've lived in Laajalahti, Espoo in Finland for 12, 13 years with my family. And as you said, the school was renovated and a lot of money was put into facilities. But then over the years, a lot of the parents in our area talked that why couldn't we get a artificial grass, artificial turf on the football field? And why is that important? Well, in Finland, due to the weather, a gravel or a sand field it's mud for 3-4 months a year. And kids or the adults in the area can't enjoy it at that time. But even the school kids who in the recess time or sports class go to the field are basically covered with mud. So it's not very optimal in Finland for 3-4 months to do that. And then approximately a year ago, we decided that, well, let's try to make this happen. Let's try to get the turf there and make a facility, make a field for everybody in the community to enjoy and play around different sports, not just football. So I contacted the city of Espoo, and we shook hands pretty quickly, saying that if I can gather half of the money, Espoo city will pay half, meaning altogether 100,000 euros. So 50,000 and 50,000. And I said, well, let's see how quickly, or if I can, overall, gather the private money part, 50,000 euros. And then off we went. After a lot of big and small steps and success and steps backwards, we were able to make the field happen last September. In Laajalahti, Espoo. So it's set up and all good.
And that was like half a year before planned scheduled, like more than half a year maybe before scheduled even.
The original thought I had was that I could have all of this winter, 24-25, to gather the money. And then we could set up and install the turf in the spring 25 and then enjoy it all summer 25. But as we realized, there's a lot of willingness to help. There is money in Finland, private money and private donors and company sponsors who wanted to take part in a project like this. So we were able to gather the money much quicker than we first thought. And then we were able to install it last autumn and have a big opening ceremony and a huge game and media spectacle almost.
It was. I was actually there filming also, and we might have some shots from that
Yes.
coming soon as well as part of this interview, because maybe you can mention the grand opening. Like we had a lot of YouTube stars from Finland.
Yes.
They're playing a friendly game.
Yeah.
So my son told me about it more before I knew anything else.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
maybe you can tell us about the grand opening.
Yeah, we can go into the grand opening, which was a success. Shortly, 750 people turned out. There was sunshine and there was a game played by a local Finnish celebrity team called Gilla FC, who the players there are rappers, rock stars, football players, ice hockey players, and YouTubers and social media personalities, big stars. And they were one of the partners and one of the sponsors of this project, Pihapelit. And their biggest contribution, yes, they did give some money also, but the biggest contribution, they came in and played for an hour, and 16 goals, 8-8 was the game. It was a show and really fun. Fantastic. For the local community, parents, kids, grandparents watching these celebrities play there, and the opening ceremony for our field.
Yeah, we all loved it. And my son got his first autographs also at the moment. I was just remembering because he's told me he wanted to go with his friends and not with his parents before we were planned to go. And so I just recall that I got my first autograph by Thomas Brolin back in the days in Sundsvall in Sweden on the airport.
Wow.
And I was saying that, you have to take a real piece of pen and paper, not just a selfie.
Yes.
He got the selfies as well. But the pen and paper, take this whole notebook, and then just went there and gathered all the autographs from all the players, and he was so happy. So that was really a beautiful starting point, a highlight maybe even so far, but really a beautiful starting point. But I want us to go back a little bit again to see how could this happen, or how were you able to make this happen, and then with the community. What's your background, your personal background? Because I remember when you were telling this in the parents' meeting, and it was like a side point, and I told you, like, that's a good idea, I support the idea, but it was not an official point, and I had no contribution to helping you with anything of it, and I didn't even realize how big of a thing it was until after the inauguration, and then every day afterwards, my son was staying after school until like 8:00 p.m.
Exactly.
The entire autumn season, until dark. So, and then I understood how big of a difference it was for him to have the artificial grass field in our neighborhood, because he didn't go there and play football during these dark hours, even if it was muddy. So some kids do, but I saw him and his friends being really enjoying it so much. And then also we got to enjoy it as parents.
Yeah, for sure, yes.
But tell us a little bit about your personal background. So who are you, and what do you think led you up to being the man behind this?
Well, shortly from a professional work perspective, I've always worked in marketing and advertising. So I've been a marketing director in a few companies: McDonald's, Elisa, the local telecom operator, Paulig, the coffee and food company. The last job I had was a managing director for a media agency here in Finland, and so on. So maybe some of the kind of background reasons why I was able to build this concept and perhaps maybe even sell it to the sponsors and present it in an interesting way and put it all together. Of course, probably because of my background, I did have contacts to companies as well as all the celebrities and rappers and stars, and Gilla FC, who was the team at our opening event. So there was stuff from my background that we were able to benefit from. But I think the biggest thing in the thinking behind the whole thing was that we're all worried that our kids and our youth don't do sports or don't do outdoor activity enough anymore. Many reasons for that: society reasons, the price of hobbies and sports, but also phones, the internet, computers, gaming. But then most importantly, probably, we've lost the culture of pihapelit.
Yeah.
And when we say pihapelit, it's a Finnish term that everybody in Finland knows, but it's about yard games, about street games, going outside and not official practice or clubs and teams, but really going outside and playing some game according or based on the season of winter, spring, summer, whatever it is, and some sports. And we've lost that pihapelit culture of going outside, and we wanted to kind of redeem that culture of please kids, call your friends or send a message that let's see at the field rather than let's see in a game or on a channel on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
So we wanted to do that, and I think having a field, having a place where you can always go to, which is always open for everybody, is one important step in redeeming that culture of pihapelit, of yard games and street games.
And it's so timely also because we've seen this happen for maybe a decade or more. But really, this last year, we had this very important book launched by this psychologist, Jonathan Haidt, where he talks a lot about the loss of community.
Yes.
And it basically started since the arrival of the TV, and little by little, we've seen less and less children play outside. And also with the digital world, we haven't really noticed until very recently the big harmful effects of having kids lost in the digital world without any supervision, whereas we think it's dangerous to go outside and play. So we don't let our kids go outside and play freely, which is kind of an illusion that we think it's more dangerous to go outside and play than being stuck in the digital world.
Exactly.
So we're little by little waking up. But the big theme from last year, and I think still, is the loss of community and how we can make the schools phone-free as a reaction to the problem that we didn't really deal with since more than a decade.
Sure.
And I think this is a very beautiful solution to this, where we have the power of community coming together and really inspiring young people's opportunity to be outside and play again. And they really enjoy it. They really prefer it. So when they have the opportunity, when everyone is doing it, we also know from research that if the friends were not on social media, I would not like to be on social media. I'm only there because my friends are there. But if my friends are playing outside, then of course I want to be outside and play.
Exactly.
And what made this happen? So if you take us back to the steps, so what were the step-by-steps, let's say, maybe not instructions, but steps that you took, that you see that these are good steps to take? Of course, making it also interesting for your community, your, let's say, the famous community to actually come and invest their time in this.
Sure.
So they spend their entire day playing football and coming there and putting the community together. But what were all the behind-the-scenes steps that were taken to make this happen?
Well, personally, from the beginning of the project, I felt that, in order to get our kids and youth outside and do outdoor activity and sports more and more, we need three things. One is we need heroes. And for that, we have the professional players from different sports. We have the rappers and more culture people who also enjoy different sports. So we have the heroes and that part. Secondly, we need clubs and teams, which are, I would say, on a very professional, secured level in Finland. So you can find a club for any sports, and it's very organized and all good. Small detail, rather expensive for some sports, but let's get into that later. But the third big thing is that this pihapelit culture, the culture of yard games and street games, we've lost, and we want to redeem that, as I said. And when we started thinking, what could we do to prove this third part, the culture of going outside, we wanted to, of course, show that the sense of community is still alive, that we can bring the local companies together, we can bring the local people together, which you were talking about earlier. The second thing was that we wanted to prove with this project that we can combine public money and private money. So it's that was probably my biggest worries originally, that that's not going to happen. Somebody's going to say tax here, tax problem there, who owns, and responsibilities and kind of bureaucracy will take over. And then thirdly, yes, we have one field in Laajalahti, but we wanted to introduce or prove that a model, as I now explained, is possible. That this model of pihapelit and putting money together and bringing the community together, we can copy that model to other fields, other areas in the Espoo area, other cities, Vantaa, Helsinki, Kouvola, Oulu, whatever, that it's copyable. And anybody can take it from there, because now I've kind of went through the steps, and we know quite well how to play it along and in which order you need to discuss and with who and make it happen.
And maybe what not to do.
Also, a few missteps in there, but I've made those mistakes now, and I know those.
But this project and you, in this case, have been hugely successful and very fast. Like not only before schedule, but also reaching a lot of attention. You've been all over the place in media, and I've been trying not to watch too much because I wanted to have an authentic interview with you and really hear everything from you directly, because I was also talking to you on a personal level from the very beginning. And then we created our, maybe you can talk a little bit about our dad's club that we created, also trying to be role models for our children.
Exactly, yeah.
But even our legend, Jari Litmanen, heard about the project.
Yes.
You have been photographed with him. So, this is really a timely thing, but also you have a lot of backing behind you, a lot of people who sees the necessity for something like this.
Yeah.
And then we actually have these heroes that we can bring together. But it really needs this coordination also, that you have someone who coordinates everyone's, let's say, talked interest into some concrete action.
Exactly. I think, if we look at our community in Laajalahti, one key player was also the Laajalahti ry, which is the registered association, community association, which is a non-profit one, and they've been set up to kind of make life better in the area for the people who live there. And they work in a lot of ways, but they were, after contacting the city of Espoo, they were the second party that I wanted to contact. That are they behind it, and they were crucial because they have the credibility. Then that all the financing, all the money gathering goes through them, not me personally or some other individual, because we don't want to kind of raise any questions as what's going to happen with the money, or am I being paid something, or do I get something personally out of it? So that was one probably thing, the Laajalahti ry, which we need to think.
I wanted to ask about that, the private-public collaboration, because I see a necessity all over the place to work more closely with the private community from a public standpoint, and also maybe a lot of private entities don't see any benefit of working with the public entities, but they're still door openers many times. There's a lot of regulation that should be also dealt with. And but some entities, and I've been flirting with the politics a little bit, and I hear a lot about the problems that there's no budget, there's no funding, there's no money from the public side. And then we had these kind of conversations in the same day and week as we have slush happening.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand how they cannot understand that there's more money than we can ever use.
Exactly.
But you're looking at the wrong places, and you have the wrong people taking the decisions. So how can we facilitate, from what you have learned, this communication between the public and the private entities, so that we don't just focus on the problem and the lacks, rather see that, okay, we have, so where are the opportunities, where are the resources?
Exactly.
And then having the right people also coordinating this.
Yeah. Well, one of the first findings was that the municipalities and cities, towns in Finland, they don't have money for everything. Let's be honest. There's the schools, there's the streets, there's the healthcare, there's the psychological services.
I mean, I don't see that they even should have.
True, exactly. And then it becomes politics, where how do you prioritize and where do you put? And let's be honest, a soccer field or artificial grass turf probably is less important short term than school services, teachers, healthcare, traffic lights, safety, and police and whatever. So we understand that. But then at the same time as the kind of public money is short for everything we want to do, there is more money than ever in Finland. companies are willing to participate and help individuals have more money than ever, and they are willing to help and participate if the thing that we're doing is concrete enough, it's close enough, and it's not caught in the bureaucracy, as I said. And having a soccer field open for everybody all the time was, in this case, very, very practical and very concrete and very close by, and directed at the kids and youth that we're all worried about, including public sector, including parents, including the companies.
Yeah.
So it kind of hit that soft spot. And now when I keep talking about that it's always open for everybody, I think we need to take into account something I mentioned earlier, is the cost of doing sports and hobbies for kids, which for many reasons is growing and growing. And it was in the Helsingin Sanomat interview by ex-footballer Kottila about a year ago, where a 10 to 14-year-old kid who wants to play football in the greater Helsinki area, the average is 2,600 a year.
Wow.
And that's, sorry to say, hell of a lot of money for a lot of us. So it's evident that being in a team, in a club, is starting to be too expensive for a lot of families. And now this field that we were able to finance, half public, half private money, we have a deal that the teams and clubs cannot reserve any practice hours there. So whoever shows up at our field gets to play. You cannot tell anybody that we are playing now, you're not. So it's also a perspective of that community, bringing people in. Yes, there are some adults, some kids, and you then just have to figure out how do we share the field in some practical sense. So also that bringing together element, the sense of community in a smaller scale there.
Yeah, really important. And what would be your advice then to some, let's start with politicians who think it's their role to do something like provide a public good, but then just because they don't have money allocated for it, they just say no.
Yeah.
So how do you open those doors?
Well, I mean, as in business, you have to be innovative and try new models. And I think on this one, in a short, small scale, we prove that this kind of a new model where we 50-50 finance a field for everybody is possible. And I do have to raise my hat, as we say in Finland, to the Espoo, city of Espoo and their people there who were very proactive and very pro this new model and testing it, because you would have thought that the city would immediately say that no, we can't do this for reason 1, 2, 3, 4, and who owns the field and who has their insurances and kind of responsibilities and what if something happens. But in this case, we were able to prove a new model works. And again, this Laajalahti association was crucial there. As I said, all the financing went through them. They were the one who invoiced the sponsor companies 5,000 euros each. Yes, they got visibility, and I'm really proud and happy that they joined. And not to go through the list here, but please go to bihapelit.net where you can see the sponsors and give a shout out to them.
We should give a shout out to them,
because they proved also willingness to help.
Yeah.
But then to the process, so Laajalahti ry invoiced the money, and when we had 50%, meaning 50,000 altogether money, including the sponsors, the companies, but a lot of local individual people, families donated then money to the project. So when we had half of the money gathered, the company who provided the turf and installed it, they send an invoice to Laajalahti ry. And now the whole field is the responsibility of the Espoo city. So whether it's maintenance or putting the ice there with the water truck in the winter. I was about to ask that.
So when do we get the ice for the ice hockey season?
Well, that one we can't blame Espoo. We can just blame the weather or global warming a bit on this one. So this year it looks like we didn't get an ice there, not because of the turf, but because of the weather. So they weren't able to freeze it there. But so Espoo city is now taking care of all of this.
Because that's what my son is waiting for now.
Yeah, unfortunately.
We're skiing instead now for the time being.
Yeah, exactly. But
in the north.
one important thing also for the community was that it's not just for football. Of course, it's artificial turf and the football lines field is drawn there. But there is a pesäpallo, Finnish baseball field drawn there also, as the field is used by the elementary school quite a lot for different sports. The ice will be available there if it's freezing and the weather permits.
Great.
So the city of Espoo will then come with the water truck as earlier. So that was something very important for local people also. And there's been a lot of other stuff going on there. Maybe from a Finnish perspective, the most exotic one was one day last autumn. There was a son and dad there. I was looking from far away at what kind of sport are they now doing. So they were practicing cricket there. So that was a cool small detail that the son was trying to hit and the father was passing the ball. And again, community, some were playing football there, some here, some cricket here. So kind of giving space to others is an important finding here.
Fantastic. Okay, so tell us some of the highlights that you've had after this success when you had the great launch, the inauguration, and then you started getting more and more media attention. What are some highlights and also, let's say, concrete steps that are being taken now to follow this up, making sure that this model actually is copied, that someone takes the lead somewhere else? Or is it still you that have to go and continue the marketing so that someone else takes over somewhere else? Or how will this scale so that we get everyone moving again in a more healthy way?
Well, of course, getting the project together much quicker than we thought originally was a big help. So we were able to use the momentum last autumn to gather the money, install it, have it ready when school starts, and then the opening ceremony and game was a big success. Part of the success has been that we got the field together and installed much quicker than we first thought. So we were able to use the momentum for gathering the money, finding the sponsors, installing the field, having it open when school starts, and then the big ceremony, opening game last autumn. Yle did a nice piece on the opening ceremony. MTV3, Huomenta Suomi had me on live TV to talk about it. Now I'm here, and Länsiväylä and so on. So it has, the whole project gotten quite nice publicity. And I hope that's part of getting the next fields up and running. To your question, it does need an individual who kind of has the time, drive, and energy to take it through, so it doesn't just happen by itself. I have had questions or messages from other areas going, yes, we would like to have a field like this. Can you make it happen? Happy to help, happy to consult, but I'm kind of running out of time, and I'm happy that we were able to build this concept and prove that it can be done. And actually tonight I'm going to another area in Espoo to talk about the project and what kind of steps and what kind of resources it might need. But I'm convinced that after this first field and first project pilot field, it's much easier. We know the steps. And of course, the big thing is just having some individual or individuals who have the energy and getting together the sponsors, which is probably the biggest job.
And do you have like a handbook in mind to write if you don't get a new person taking over that you can immediately coach or mentor, or are you still available to coach or mentor the next person? Yeah,
I'm available. I can consult, and I've given presentations on it also to other areas, that these are kind of the steps and this is approximately what you will need. Will we have another fields, pihapelit, turfs? Let's see. One of the findings along this winter has also been that it doesn't necessarily, or it doesn't have to be a football field. It doesn't need to be an artificial grass turf. In some area it might be the concrete and a basketball field. In another area it might be something else, a fence around the existing football field or lights or whatever. So kind of the model is there, and whatever is then needed in a community or living area is probably then key. So the projects might differ a bit, but hopefully the Pihapelit net brand will keep living its own life, and we'll get a follow-up field.
Let's hope so. So what are the next steps for you? What are things that you think about now, and what are things that you would like to promote if you still use the attention that you have?
Yeah.
What are things that you seek to draw attention to?
Yeah. Well, actually, as a small detail, personally, I'm starting a new job next Monday. We're not going to go into it yet. It has its own PR project, but it has to do with outdoor activities and sports. So I'm kind of excited about that personally. Obviously, that's going to take a bit more of my time in the future than maybe last year when I was able to drive this project along my previous job.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. But then again, the publicity and talking about the model is important. Going to meet people and talking, about the steps is something. Interviews like this are just fabulous for the attention. And then as a detail, our Pihapelit case was chosen as one of the finalists for the sponsor event of the year for 2024. So it's getting some visibility there, and obviously, if somebody wants to go and vote for us,
I already did. But
thank you.
So, please go and vote. Please go and vote for this fantastic project.
Yeah. So it's spot.fi is the Association for Sponsorship and Events, and they're running a project every year about sponsorship and trying to, make that industry better and more quality project there. So we're available there for voting, which is a great thing. The others, there are giants, really big companies and big sponsorship cases. So we're kind of a small fierce pro bono case in there. But go and check out all of them. They're nice sponsors there.
Good. But this project is really beautiful because it really is so much needed for our youth that are now stuck in this depressing digital world. Some learn a lot of beautiful things in it, so we also try to educate around the healthy, pedagogical, productive ways of using digital tools. But there's a lot of harmful use in the digital world, and we have to get children moving again, but also voluntarily on their free time as something fun. To have these Pihapelit opportunities is really amazing, and I've been firsthand following it through my son's experiences since the inauguration. And then I want to highlight our personal project that I saw. So I saw my son with his friends every night, but then I also wanted to kind of inspire more children to see this opportunity. And then I saw you being there playing with some kids. Yeah. And I was saying, hey, Tomi, we should make a dad's group so that we can come and inspire more kids to come and play. And then you were like, let it start. So just get it going. I'll invite the people that I know. And then all of a sudden we were playing every Thursday for the entire autumn season. The dads of the community. And hopefully we get more dads next semester.
And I think that's a good case. It's not only about kids and youth. It is mainly about that because actually I had the opportunity to be at the field the day that we opened it. They had installed the grass and the company called me, installation company said that they're done now, that if you wish you can use it. And there were some kids from the school, maybe even your son there, and they had taken their football shoes and footballs with them to school, expecting maybe that now we're going to open the field.
Oh, really?
And I had the privilege of taking kind of the blocking tapes out from the door, and I said, well, if you wish, it's yours. And literally the 10 guys ran on there, and they were jumping up and down, hugging and yelling that we have this field now in our community, in our area, that you don't have to go somewhere with the car to play football. And that was kind of a perfect picture. At the same time as then we have the dads group where, let's be honest, some of the dads that kind of enjoyed and joined our games on Thursday evenings, I have probably seen them, I have probably met them. Maybe their kids have been in my children's classmates, but we haven't known each other. And it's obviously also a part of the integration of adapting to the culture, meeting people from different backgrounds, different religions, different kind of cultures, who live in the same community, but don't, for reason or another, don't have a natural connection. And this sports, and in this case football on Thursday evening, has been fabulous. And you can't stress more the importance after Thursday evening football, and yes, having a pint of beer after that in the local pub, and then you meet one of these other dads on Friday or on the weekend in our local small grocery store, Alepa, and you say, hey, how's your knee? How was that tackle? How was that goal? And that's community. That's the power of community. That's the sense of being in some group. And even though it's just artificial grass, a turf, if that makes happen, these pictures in your head of the kids jumping up and down saying, we have this field now in our area, or dad's group saying on a Saturday, hey, how are you? How was your goal on Thursday? I think we need more of that in society. We need much more of that, because the confrontation and us against them, that kind of people, our kind of people, they live there, we live here. They do that sport, we do this sport. There's too much of this, being against someone or being different from someone. So I think a turf, in all its simplicity, can do a lot of great work for that part of the community.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I remember, my son was that very same night, or he stayed the entire evening they're playing. I didn't know the details, that he had actually expected it, that he knew about it, that maybe today. But really a big thing. And then this other thing, we have some youth coming to our dad's games, and as you had mentioned, that we have this rule that we cannot exclude anyone. So it's a very beautiful thing that we get these 17-year-olds who are strong physically.
Almost better than us.
Almost better than us, but then we get like someone who really can take the lead, even when we dads used to know how to do this. But then we're kind of getting back in shape. So I think this also connection and integration between generations is really important. So even the 10-year-olds and then the 15-year-olds, 20-year-olds, and then the 45-year-olds can be playing the same games together. And it's a friendly competition.
Have fun. And the role modeling, the heroes that I talked about earlier, we can say that kids and youth go out and do more sports, do more physical exercise, go and do outdoor activities. But then you need the role models. And yes, they can be celebrities, rappers, rock stars, professional sports people. But then the biggest heroes are at home, or should be at home, the parents, that they have a culture of doing some kind of outdoor activity, some kind of sports. It doesn't need to be a professional career, but some kind of exercise is something important. And I do have to mention, as a continuance of this, is then of course the school. The principal of the school and the teachers there, as I was able to present the project to them last spring before the project was secured, they were also very, very proactive for it. Of course, natural reasons, because they do their recesses and sports classes there, but also, as in our case video, the principal explains that it's a big presentation of sense of community and being together when there's the school, there's the city of Espoo, the Laajalahti Association, local companies or companies, sponsors, and then individuals who play there, who gave money. And again, somebody gave €1, somebody gave 10, somebody 100, some gave even more, but that's kind of behind the scenes information. It's important that everybody who wanted could participate, even though €1, it doesn't really matter. These people could tell their kid that, hey, we're a part of this. We took part and we can proudly go to the field and enjoy it. And even if there was a tough situation at that moment, it's our field. It's not, there isn't a sign on the wall saying these families paid something. The sponsors are up there because they gave nice money and I think they should get that visibility. But it's a big thing to have all these different parties together behind this project, again, part of the community. And
I have to tell you, I also feel a sense of responsibility for the opportunity to live there and be there. So really taking initiative and using the field and promoting it to not only to my son, but to the dads and my neighbors. And then really now trying to get also the school more involved with all of these free time activities. And maybe we can finalize on this note. How do you see schools being able to help in this kind of a project, and what, let's say, good practices have you experienced already with our school, and what do you think schools can do more to actually make this kind of thing happen, and make sure that kids practice more sports even though they're not part of a club?
Yeah. Well, I think the big thing in the Finnish school system is not actually the school sports hours or classes. Those are there. There's 1 or 2 hours or 3 hours a week, and that's fine. But if you look at a elementary school, it's the recesses. Between every other class, there's 15, 10, 20, or 30 minutes of outdoors.
Still the best time of school, even in Finland, for kids.
And for everybody. You don't get to stay inside. You do not go on a computer, hopefully, or on your phone. You have the possibility to be outside and play something, or hang around, or just walk. I think that's a big thing because, when I was a kid, I lived in the United States, in Washington, D.C. And I still remember that when the asphalt in the yard of the school was wet, it wasn't even raining anymore, it was wet, we didn't go outside because the school was worried that we'd fall down and there would be a lawsuit. If that's kind of one starting point, put the kids outside and they'll do something, and maybe they'll get the spark for some other sport or outdoor activity of some kind from those recesses. Because that's, if you count all the minutes together for a week, that's a lot of good outdoor activity for a lot of kids. So I think that's one starting point from the school. The school was, as I said, very proactive for it. They, of course, have their rules on how they can show sponsors and kind of keeping apart the system and the marketing part of companies. But they were very willing to market the opening ceremony. It was on a Sunday, but they sent all the families a message saying that, here's our field, that this community project was able to put together. The school will benefit from it greatly. The kids and the families will benefit from it greatly. And if you have time, you can go watch the game on Sunday. So they had a big part in that also. And now it's there at their use, but as you know, and we mentioned a couple of times already, then after school hours, it's open for everybody, young and old.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm very much excited about following you, what you will do next, but also help promote this Pihapellit project forward. So please vote, everyone, also for this award that the project might get.
Yeah.
And I will definitely want to continue the conversation, and I'll also continue playing football with you and the dads next season, hoping the sun will warm us a little bit more soon. But first we have to enjoy the winter sports properly. So anything else, any final comments or conclusions from your side? Messages to parents maybe out there, educators out there who might be watching or listening?
Well, not to repeat myself, but I think the kids and the youth, they need heroes, role models, and parents and adults can show that, lead that way in having outdoor activities and sports of some kind. Being a bit less on the phone. Parents, put that phone away and go out for a walk and do something with the dog or kids or whatever. That's kind of one part. But then it's also about this culture of Pihapellit, the culture of street games, yard games. And it doesn't always have to be so serious with the trainer. Just go outside and set up games. The classic movie Wayne's World from years back had the classic scene when the guys are playing ice hockey on the street. And then the car arrives. And they yell, game off, they move the goals. The car passes nicely, doesn't honk or isn't aggressive. Nice. And then they move the goals back and game on again. So I think this is one last thing that I would like to, remind everybody, also the people with cars, that you can play on the street or yard. It doesn't have to be overly safe. Meaning cars drive as they're supposed to. If there's a game on, you stop, they move the goals, and they put them back on a quiet street in a safe place, of course. So it's about this culture of Pihapellit, the culture of yard games, street games, and having that redeemed back into our society and communities.
That's fantastic. So let's promote and support this culture of Pihapellit. So thank you very much, Tomi. Fantastic to have you here.
Thank you very
finally.
much. Happy
And
to
I
be
look
here.
forward to see you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.